We're going to share with you the technique on working with the binding miter tool. When you have this tool, you also have a full set of instructions telling you how to use it. The purpose of this demo is just to make it easier still. So step one is that you're going to sew the bindings onto your quilt. A folded binding, either straight of grain or bias, whichever is your pleasure. But as you do so, you will leave tails at the end and stop and start your stitching at the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once those are stitched in place on all 4 sides, then you are ready to sew in your miter. So you fold your quilt at a corner so that the 2 adjacent binding strips are lying one on top of the other. Notice that the quilt has sort of become triangular in shape, and the quilt and the binding are in opposite directions. Now, right here is where the stitching ended, and straight up from where the stitching ended on the fold of the binding, you want to simply make a mark. And if you use the square corner of the tool and line it up with the top of that binding, even with where the stitching ended, that spot is straight up. Make a little mark, and then pivot the tool and center it so that you have the same number of lines from the tip to where the stitching ended as you do from the tip up to that dot that you just made. And when you are satisfied that those are equal, simply draw a line around the edge of the tool. Keeping the binding strips then together, you want to stitch on this line that you've drawn, which is what we can show you on this corner. It is stitched. Now you're going to stitch in a thread color that matches your binding, not the black. This demo is in black so you can see it. After you've stitched that, make sure that you're pleased with what you have. I can peek inside and see that it hits the corner, because the next step is to trim. And you're going to trim away the excess fabric after you've stitched. It's trimmed close, and then turn, and you can use the 60-degree corner as a point turner. Poke that corner out, and that will turn the corner to the other side so that it is mitered out, turns the corner, miters back on the flip side, and then you just whip down your edges.